have taste in a way that's meaningful to software people.
Hello, I'm Bill Gates.
I would recommend TypeScript. Yeah, it writes a lot of code for me, and usually it's slightly wrong.
I'm reminded, incidentally, of Rust.
Congressman, iPhone is made by a different company, and so
you will not learn Rust while skydiving.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about large neural networks. It's really an honor to be here.
Rust.
Data Topics.
Welcome to the
Datatopics podcast.
Hello and welcome to Datatopics Unplugged, your casual corner of the web where we discuss what's new in data every week, from Rust to research or data contracts. Anything goes. We're also live on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Twitch. Name your favorite streaming platform. What are you going to say?
I was going to say, we're live at 4:45.
Wow, you just can't let it go, can you?
We should have been. So apologies for everybody, all those thousands of people that have been waiting anxiously for the last 45 minutes. Why are we late, Marina?
Paolo wasn't here when I got here, and I was like, "Where's Paolo?" So I'm really sorry for Paolo. He's a nice guy. He tries.
No, but I was giving a talk at VB actually. So
okay, fine. For the people that didn't are not in the joke.
But tell us, Marina, what were you doing?
I was invited to do a guest lecture on at VUB, so it's a university in Brussels. And normally, if everything went well, I would have been here by 4. Like maybe I was 5 minutes late, whatever. But what can I say? The students just love me, They were like, "Oh no, I can't get enough." It was like, "Oh, I need to go." It's like, "No, we one more real back. We one more," and everyone started getting up. I was like, I can't just leave like that, right? So
every time they did not okay, now let me do another session. Then maybe I'm gonna 5 minutes on back propagation.
Yeah, it was just every time. And
more info.
I know.
What did you talk about?
I talked about MLOps. So MLOps is a bit of a fluffy topic. So I also dived in a bit toward deploy models, right? What does it mean to deploy a model, batch, real time, and some things. So there was one demo that I actually did it live, and there was one demo that is pre-recorded with Askinema. So it's just I record my terminal, but it's still a project. So the idea is that they can also go and try it out themselves. It was cool. It was fun.
It's nice that university are starting to use this type of ops thingy.
Yeah. I also think it's very is becoming more and more important for industry, right? I think tendency is that AI and ML is getting easier and easier to build. So I think the stuff around it becomes more relevant as well.
Yeah. But what I meant is academia typically lags a bit behind, and MLOps is also such a new topic, and it's nice to see that academia is also catching up with all those new topics.
That they're aware that this is important.
At least that.
Maybe for the listeners, Paolo has joined us before, but maybe for the people new to you, Paolo, maybe you should introduce yourself.
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Paolo, team lead data management at DataRoots. Last time I spoke on this, I was data engineer. But today we'll talk about data contracts and few things. Let's see where this podcast brings us.
Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thanks for joining us again. So he came here once, and he still decided
open to it.
Yeah, exactly. So says a lot. But really cool. I also, before Bart threw me under the bus, also he did it on social media as well. Today is the 15th of March of 2024. So what do we have for today? Maybe one timely piece of news. Apparently there was do you know ChatGPT? Have you heard of it? ChatGPT? No?
Yeah.
You heard of it? It's like this model AI something. Anyways, apparently there was a leak from OpenAI. And again, what is a leak, right? Apparently there was a blog post that was deleted that revealed a faster, more accurate GPT 4.5 model. And the thing is also that search engines also indexed these things. And so you can see here part of the Google search and all these things, right? And from OpenAI blog 4.5 Turbo, OpenAI announces 4.5 Turbo, a new model that surpasses GPT-4 Turbo in speed, accuracy, and scalability. Learn how GPT 4.5 Turbo can generate natural language or code with a 256K context window. So already bigger context window there. And a knowledge cutoff of June 2024. So two interesting things here. I think the knowledge cutoff of June 2024 gives the hint that they will be training on data now, right? Usually have the classic, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have data from 2020. I think it's like June 2021 last time they had it, no?
No, it's May.
Yeah, but I think
So that means that it hints that will be a release somewhere in July.
Exactly. Right? That's the speculation, right? So,
but how big is 256K?
It's 256,000.
Yeah, 1,000. What's the limit right
now? I don't know. Bart, actually, you actually bumped into the limits of the context window before, right?
Yeah, but not at this size.
But what was the size that you bumped into? Like, what was a?
I don't know which model I used back then exactly, but it's significant. I think 16,000 or something. Also 16, but 256K. What is it? Is like almost a million words or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I think they also mentioned how this also puts in context because I think
a million characters, a million words.
But because Google Gemini also had released a model, right, that they were advertising the context window. So this also kind of counterbalances a bit that.
Yeah. But how big was the gap between GPT-3 and GPT 3.5? Was it like a significant upgrade? I don't remember anymore.
Between
3 and
3.3 and 3.5, yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's like Stone Age. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a long time ago. I don't know, to be honest.
You know, actually, funny thing, you mentioned like 3.5 is a long time ago. Also in the lecture today.
But today, so I think 3.5 had 4,000 tokens, and then there's a newer 3.5 Turbo, which is 16K. Looking at it here.
Yeah.
And let me just quickly see GPT. The latest preview model of GPT-4 has already 128,000 tokens.
Okay.
So it will double in size basically with 4.5. But that also means that we'll have to wait much longer for ChatGPT 5.
True. But what is the versioning system there?
Yeah.
Does it mean something? Like, does it mean that 5 is going to be a bigger change than 4.5?
Let's see.
To be seen.
To be seen.
To be seen. To be seen, indeed. But actually, the one thing I mentioned today, one of the lecture, we actually been playing with GPT from OpenAI a long time ago. And actually, one use case we had for the Roots Academy was Auto-in Joker. That was to create jokes.
It was bad at it.
Yeah, it was
at that point.
But it made some sense. You know, it wasn't like just gibberish, right? But that was GPT-2. Because
really?
I was showing
GPT-2?
Yeah, it was GPT-2.
Oh, wow.
And it's crazy. Like, and we had this. It was so kind of okay, right? Like we did the presentation. It was cool. But now it's super hyped, right? Like if you were to do this again, it would be like top of the charts, right?
What, the jokes or
no? Like I feel
sure.
like popularity, I guess. It's like I feel like when we made it, like we did the project here, we shared it. It made some noise, right? But like I think today GenAI is so hyped. We didn't even call it GenAI back then. I think we just said it was like a joke generator.
Yeah,
but it is GenAI.
Gen jokes.
Gen jokes, yes, Gen jokes.
Gen Joker.
Yeah, it makes it. Yeah, I guess it was mainly the quality, right? The difference then GPT-2 to GPT-3.
Yeah, definitely the quality. And I think from 3.5 and I think 4 became. If we talk about ChatGPT,
that's what I was gonna say.
So ChatGPT, I think 4 became multimodal. I think 3.5 is not multimodal.
But when we had GPT-2, did we have ChatGPT or no?
When we used back in the day, when we used 2, no, I don't think so.
Oh, then maybe that's also made a big difference.
But did you already have a new UI with GPT-2, or was it only like with API calls?
No, so they fine-tuned it. They actually had the model and they trained on top of it.
Like the Roots Academy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it was like Hugging Face stuff.
Okay. So
I think I was reading and they said they fine-tuned it. So I think
I think it was my academy.
yeah.
I was busy with Dexter.
How long? Wow, you chose wrong, huh?
I didn't choose.
You didn't choose. Okay, no, it's cool. But yeah, AI is everywhere. Apparently, like there are AI software engineers now. I don't know if you saw this in the news.
No, but well, I heard a little bit about it, but I also it was a busy week for me. But you're talking about Devin, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, I am.
Tell us about Devin.
Devin. Well,
Who is Devin?
the first AI software engineer. So apparently, like he has a lot of different capabilities. I also want to look into it more, but I thought I already knew enough that I thought it was relevant to share. So Devin is, I think they compared it to a junior software engineer. They can autonomously find and fix bugs in code bases. You can actually open Stack Overflow and go there. So you can do different things, but basically it's like.
But Devin is a model, or what is Devin?
It is. There is a model behind, but I think it's like an agent.
Okay.
So actually, he's not just responding to requests, but we can give a task and he will do stuff. He will make different requests. Like, let's go to Stack Overflow. We'll go to do this. That's what I understood. But see here, like the production,
And who's behind it? There's a company behind it?
Cognition. So actually, I hadn't heard of them, but I think they were kind of like they're not new. I think it's just that they had their
It says in the header bar on the page just showing that they raised 21 million in a Series A.
Indeed.
Which is a lot and not a lot in this space, right?
Yeah, maybe they are new. Because if you go to their webpage about us, makers of Devin, the first AI software engineer. It's just this is the only thing the company does.
Would be wondering how good this is at this moment. So, so that means that you have someone virtual and they can basically code for you.
Yeah.
Interesting to understand what the workflow is. Because you probably it's going to create something and you're going to iterate over it. You're going to give some instructions.
Don't we have already some open source library that can do agent stuff?
But this is the next level that it is fully implemented for you, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the paid counterpart of something that is free.
This is why all three of us no longer need to work.
Yeah.
That's why we
will replace us. They will replace us. We'll do podcast full time then. I will have Devin's work.
We're just laying the seeds. But actually, I think I was looking here as well. You can hire Devin. So, if you have vacancies at Datatopics,
we have him pop up on Slack.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah. But here you see, for example, Devin correctly resolves 13.86% of issues end to end.
Of GitHub issues, we're talking about, right? That's interesting. There's a lot, right?
Yeah, there's quite a lot. But I mean, I guess, what's the quality of it, though?
Well, yeah, but we're very early, right?
That's true.
This plus 10 years.
That's true. So, yeah, I think this is a never-ending discussion. Is AI going to replace us? Is it not, right? So, because we also saw a previous episode that there was a author from a blog post that he was arguing that writing code was never the hard part of his job. So that's why they pay him. So writing code is easy, but now apparently this will do more than just that. Right? So to be seen. But
what did he say was the difficult part?
So for example, he says, if I ask ChatGPT, write a function to compute the Fibonacci number, it will do it.
Yeah.
Right. But the software engineer, what he's paid for is not to just do it. It's to ask, why do you need this function? What happens if you give a negative number? So an edge case.
To actually make that translation, what is the problem that someone actually has? What are you writing a solution about?
So it's actually the building blocks. It's the easy part of his job. He said the hard part is it's before the code gets written.
Understanding that you need a Fibonacci number.
You need that, and where are you going to put it? What are the edge cases? How are you going to deal with them, basically. So that was his point. So he wasn't particularly concerned about AI taking over his job, but things like this, I think, make you wonder a bit more, right? Is he right? Is it not?
Yeah, and if you consider that in a few months you'll have GPT 4.5 with a double-sized context window, I think it makes sense that more and more information can be put in this Devin.
Yeah.
AI.
And I guess my question is, Devin, I think, be a junior kind of dev. Like you tell them what to do. And it would do
Probably very junior now, but
it. Very junior. But how far do you think we can push this in like 10 years time? So a long time ahead.
it's very hard to imagine. Huh?
Yeah,
I
it's
find
hard.
it very hard to imagine.
Yeah.
I think you can take this very far, much farther than we now think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, if you just see the pace at all these things go.
Could you imagine like Sora 6 months ago?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And,
Actually, there was
now this is the minimum that you need to have.
yeah, it's like you're not impressed anymore,
Yeah.
right? Actually, there was
Another sort of video.
yeah, there was a lot of articles I saw comparing like video generation Sora and 1 year ago, and the difference is like
That's
crazy.
crazy.
yeah,
It's really crazy.
With the Will Smith eating spaghetti.
Yeah,
This
Yeah,
one.
it was so
yeah,
funny.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
One. That's good. One. Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, let's see. Do you ever feel like a bit of anxiety about
Maybe
your
we
job?
could make a Murillo eating spaghetti with the latest. That would be good, eh?
Let's do it. It's gonna be next thumbnail of the YouTube. Alex taking notes. She's like, oh yeah.
I think I can do this.
Yeah, do it.
I need like 20 to 30 pictures of you to find
You
your
have
model.
more already, huh? Just
Oh yeah, that's good to remind me.
yeah,
good
maybe I
that you
shouldn't
remind
have.
me.
Maybe I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Should-
Oh, this is gonna work.
Let's hope.
Everyone's like, oh, you're the spaghetti guy. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. But
But
regardless of how powerful these models are, one thing I want to bring that caught my attention, you shared the first part. Today, they are still, and I think that's the difference with Devin as well, right? Devin is like, it's a full autonomous agent. It will do stuff for you. But I think today, ChatGPT and all these things, there's still a support. Like there should be either like, there should be some human, how do you say, checking, not checking, what's the word for it?
Validation.
Validation, vetting, like there should be a process because
guardrails.
guardrails, I guess, but I guess there should be the way that Gen AI is used today. In most cases, is more of a recommendation, right? Like, oh, maybe you should do this, and then you kind of make a decision for yourself. And the reason why I asked this is because there were a few research papers that caught my attention. That clearly, well, maybe I'll let Bart. You want to take this up, or like, I know you were the one that found this, but it's a.
Well, it popped up in my feed somewhere, and this is a research paper
Published
by Zhang Wu, Yang Zhu, Liu.
Okay, name dropping.
Yeah, Bart's like he woke up today. He chose
About,
violence. He's like, I'm gonna throw everyone under the bus.
We'll tag them on LinkedIn.
It's a very difficult title. It sounds very smart, right? The three-dimensional porous mesh structure of CU-based metal organic framework, aramid cellulose separator. Is not just gibberish generated automatically? I have no clue what this is about, but it is a peer-reviewed journal, which
do you
assumes
notice-
that peers actually reviewed it. And if we go to the introduction chapter of this article, and we'll link the article in the show notes, it actually starts. The first sentence is, certainly, here is a possible introduction for your topic. Semicolon, and then the actual introduction starts.
Yeah.
So this was either it was very clearly generated by something like ChatGPT, or they really put it in as a joke, and now everybody is laughing at this. But it doesn't make the authors look very good.
No.
Doesn't make the whole
Doesn't
paper.
make the journal look very good,
Yeah.
because if it's peer reviewed, I mean, who is reviewing this? At the same time, you can argue a bit like, is the content worse for it, right?
But I think it's like,
Aside from having these artifacts in it that you.
yeah, just for me, it's just like you start questioning, right? Like, because if they didn't even like, so the author didn't review, the peer reviews didn't review carefully enough.
Yeah,
At least,
I think that is the biggest. I think the peer review process is the thing that is most under pressure.
yeah. I mean, maybe like, okay, I was even trying to justify, right? Maybe they're looking at the experiment table. Maybe they're looking at this. They're not spending time on the introduction. Maybe,
But they clearly didn't read the full thing, right?
Clearly, I mean, they didn't read the first sentence, like clearly, right? But I guess it's like, to me, is like, what if like ChatGPT hallucinates sometimes? You actually, like we shared this internally, and there was even the screenshot from the peer review process saying, oh, AI generated, like make sure to review it because
Mhm.
AI makes it sound very authoritative,
Mhm.
but it's
True.
hallucinating, right? And then clearly it's hallucinating. So it's like, and the thing is, if we had a highlighter that we can say exactly what is AI generated, like there's a tool for that, I think, actually, for creative
but
writing.
it's not very accurate.
I know. But if we had a tool that could say, okay, this is AI generated, this is not this, like that would make me feel more comfortable. But this, like, they have a lot of references here, like electrode potential, high theoretical capabilities, 1, 2, and it's like, is
Yeah.
this ChatGPT generated or is this them they generated?
And
You
it
know?
doesn't really feel ChatGPT.
You don't think so?
But
Well-
when you read it,
This part?
okay, this part, yes.
The
But then the
second-
rest is like, I could have,
It sounds very authoritative, right?
yeah. Makes you-
I don't know. You know, when ChatGPT writes, it's like all these big fancy words that you don't find here. It's there is a lot of however, which is quite not basic, but like.
But I think that it will be used. I think everybody accepts at this point, right?
Mhm.
But here, like a review process, both by the authors as well as the journal, like missed this, and then it's indeed like Marilo says, like they missed big artifacts like this. Like did they then also look at potential hallucination? That they look at the incorrectness, and I think that is that is the main concern here.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think it puts everything into a question mark, right? Which is a bit.
I think one thing we know for sure is that the reviewers here will not get anything else to review in the near future.
Now, what if, like you mentioned, the author? What if that was their plan all along? You know,
to get fame through this.
Exactly. They're like, now they're internet famous.
X fame.
Sure. Exactly.
Yeah, they can say that maybe they can put it on their T-shirt. Famous on X.
Exactly. X fame. Anyways, there's another one, actually, another example. From a different.
Yeah, this is bad. That there is another example.
Yes, I mean, again,
also peer reviewed.
Also came through my my feed, right? So it's not like I'm looking for these things. So 2 things popped up. Who knows how many there are? Successful management of an iatrogenic portal vein and hepatic artery injury in a 4-month-old female patient, a case report and literature review.
Okay,
it's a bit fun, like they say literature review, but it's ChatGPT. So it's like, what if you just throw in a ChatGPT and that's the literature review? Anyways, so this is not in the very first, not like this is not the first sentence, which I guess it's more reassuring. But you do see here, in summary, the management of bilateral iatrogenic, I don't know how to say this. The summary of management bilateral iatrogenic, I'm very sorry, but I don't have access to real-time information or patient-specific data as I am an AI language model. I can provide general information about managing hepatic artery, portal vein, blah, blah, blah.
But this one is strange, huh?
Very
because
strange.
in the middle of the sentence,
Exactly.
it starts saying, I'm sorry,
That's
but
weird,
I can't help.
Yeah, it's very strange. Very strange. But again, it still begs the question, like, how much are they reviewing these things?
Yeah.
Maybe this is like a meta research and they're doing this on purpose to see what the effect is on the community.
But it's a conspiracy theorist. You can tell it's like, that's the kind of thing you would do, I think.
And like your comments on this will now be part of the results of that research.
That's true. That's true. Maybe you should just say, like, I am an AI language model or something. You know, see if it pops up, you know, they were doing that. I think I heard that there were websites that they were putting in, like, hidden in text somewhere, like white text on white background or something, stuff about, like, I don't know, some very absurd statements. And then when there were GPT models or whatever crawling that, they would catch that and they would give like weird stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I saw that. I don't know if you heard it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that would be a way to prevent ChatGPT to take knowledge from your website without paying. Or...
Yeah. Indeed, it's creative for sure. But yeah. Well, yeah, but for you, Paolo, you still believe these papers? You still don't see an issue with it?
No, this one I don't. It's strange. I've never seen ChatGPT reply with like in the middle of the sentence saying, "I'm sorry, but I cannot help."
Yeah.
I've never seen that. Either like there is a problem with copy pasting or anything, but then the issue with peer reviewing is still there. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe on a personal side note, my partner, she got access to Copilot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's also doing her thesis. She's doing a second master's, like online, so part time. But then she's using ChatGPT, and she was super concerned. She sent me, "It's like, can they track this? Can they track that using ChatGPT? And I was like, I mean, because
Everybody knows now.
Yeah.
everybody knows. So shout out to Maria, Maria Alexandra Constantinescu. Anyways, but she was like, but are you copy pasting stuff? It's like, no, I'm asking you to review, and I'm reading that, and I'm writing my own stuff, like to summarize, right? And I said, well, be careful because sometimes hallucinates, etc., etc. But it's like there's no way someone can tell that you use ChatGPT in that process because you're still writing everything yourself.
Yeah.
And then I showed her this, and she's like, what? And I'm concerned about my master
Yeah.
thesis, it's like whatever, and you see like these peer-reviewed papers that people are clearly leveraging a lot. ChatGPT. Another thing also funny on that, she has for Copilot on Microsoft Teams, she has like 30 prompts she can ask. So there's a counter. And then like we were looking at it, and then I looked at her first conversation with ChatGPT, and it's like, hi, how are you? It's like, I'm good, how are you? It's like, oh, I have a question for you. And then she asked the question, and she goes, wow, this is great. Thank you very much. And then like,
And the counter kept ticking down.
counting, and we were like laughing.
And it's 30 per what?
I think it's per day. I think
Oh,
it's
wow,
per
that's
day.
not a lot.
Yeah, it's not a lot. But I think it's also maybe they're rolling out.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe to check that. But we were laughing about it. I was like, like you only have 30.
You need to be more efficient.
But she's just like,
But so that means she's a prompt engineer now.
she is.
Ah.
Yeah. And when Skynet takes over, she's gonna be spared because she's really nice with the AI.
Really?
Yeah. She's
Okay.
like, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Oh, I appreciate this.
Yeah. I'm not even saying thanks or please to
Yeah,
ChatGPT anymore.
I saw Bart prompt for the show notes, and it's like he says, can you do this? And then it's just shorter.
I do the same. I have the same prompt, shorter.
Shorter. Yeah.
A tad longer.
Make it funny. Add this. Do it. No, now.
But every now and then I put in that thanks.
Yeah, just
Just from like, if there is a risk, it becomes autonomous. I can still point, I was not always kind, but I did say thank you.
I did say from time to time. Yeah.
But
Okay.
did you see the people getting better results when they said, okay, I'll tip you $200 if you do this?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. But I guess why do you think that happens? Maybe
I don't know.
because I think maybe that example, but being polite, I can imagine that maybe call center data where people are polite, the answers are more helpful.
This is more bribery, how Polo's.
Yeah. I'm from Brazil. I know all about it. Oh yeah.
It's good that you say it.
Yeah, I can say it. Huh?
You can say it, yeah.
Just saying here.
We can test it then.
Test what?
Like we could make a model that say you're a Brazilian. And let's try to interact with it in different ways.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
No,
Not
there's
now,
a bit of a
but,
risk of getting cancelled. Let's go to the next topic.
Next topic. What else we have on AI? I see here. Chum. Let me share the screen again. I agree. No, I'll refuse the cookies.
You will get bashed if you just do accept all here.
I know. I don't have an ad blocker either.
This is about the EU Parliament officially adopts the AI Act, which happened a few days ago. So the AI Act we already talked about a few times. I think already a year ago or something.
Old news. Like back on ChatGPT 3 was still a thing.
It is a little bit old news. Like the final version that came out a few months ago. There were some adaptations. But it had to pass basically a final endorsement by the European Parliament, which happened a few days ago. And that means that they think that it will enter into force in May. It's not sure yet.
Do you know how long companies will have to comply to the AI Act?
To be honest, not. We did talk about beer, but I forgot the exact. There is a mention there.
Yeah, because I know for GDPR they had like 2 years or something.
Yeah,
to become compliant with.
There is also a bit of feedback, which I found that popped up in my feed, which is the other link, which I found interesting. It's from Access Now, which is didn't know Access Now, but it's an organization focusing on digital rights, and it gave a bit of a skeptical feedback, and it highlighted some of the things where the AI Act is lacking a bit. And I think especially given the last changes that happened a few months ago, it was very hard to get the act to pass. So there were a lot of compromises made. And the Access Now organization, like they listed a few of them. So it properly it fails to properly ban some of the most dangerous uses of AI. So it is allowed to, for example, to be used in biometric mass surveillance under certain restrictions, of course. There is very, very, very big loophole via Article 6.3, where developers can exempt themselves basically through. I'm really just looking for it. It's in the notes. It's the other link. You're trying to put it on the screen. So there is a very big loophole, Article 6.3, which more or less says something like, if you're using this model more as a side effect and not to make a full decision, but more as a supporting tool, you can say that you're exempt. And that's a very vague definition, right? So this is a potential very big loophole. The public transparency requirements are very limited for law enforcement, which also begs the question, like, is that good for the public at large? There are a number of other things, like there's a bit of a segregation between people that are part of the European Union and people that are in the migration process. The act applies differently to them. So there is still some work to be done, or let's say it's going to take some time for it to get into effect, until there is actually jurisprudence, until we actually know what this means. But there are some clear critical remarks as well. There were some in the original article that we just showed, is that the big players, most of them refrained to really comment on it. So there was no answer from OpenAI and stuff. IBM and Salesforce basically said that they were in favor of, more or less. I'm very much paraphrasing of the AI Act, but I think it's also commercially important for them to say this is good because their customers will be under the AI Act.
Yeah.
Voilà. So let's see what happens when it comes into law, and maybe we can go a bit more in depth in the next session on from the moment it turns into law, what the implications are for everybody. We did this a year ago, but now a lot of things changed. We can get Kevin on again.
True.
And go into it. True.
So Kevin, mark your calendar. 4:30 next week. Okay, just kidding. I'll be here for.
That means 5.
No, because we leave at 6.
That's true. That's true. Unless you have food, then I'll be here 10 minutes early.
Only if it's free.
Only if it's free. You know, just reinforcing the Brazilian stereotype out here.
That's your word.
Cool. Maybe, but all this talk about AI, and you know what you need for AI?
Data.
Yes. See, that's why we we host this thing together.
Yeah. That's why.
And not only data, you need data
quality.
Yes.
Oh la la.
Do you know about data quality?
In fact, I do.
Oh wow!
What a coincidence! All of this.
Wow! This conversation just went there spontaneously. Yeah. What happened about it? What's data quality? Why do we care?
Well, last time we spoke, it was about data quality, and we briefly touched upon data contracts. And I don't know if I did the comment, but to me, data contract a few months ago was nice to have.
What is a data contract?
Right, let's start with that. So basically, it's a contract between two stakeholders saying, okay, what we have in this data set, what usage we do, SLAs, who can use this data, everything is compiled in the contract. But more than just usage, it's also like what type of data you have, what's expected there, some quality rules as well. So it's just an agreement between two parties to say, okay, we have this data set, we agree that it should give this at this time, and then let's use this to resolve any issues that we have down the line. So if there is an issue, if I am a consumer of this data contract, if I receive data from the data set and I say, oh wait, we agreed on this, but it's not what I get, okay, let's solve this. Let's make sure that we get what we expected.
And maybe to make the parallel to the more software engineering community at large, we see contracts being used also for other things. And I think the thing that people most of the time come in contact with is an Open API spec or Swagger spec, which is a contract on how you can consume APIs, right? It describes how does an API endpoint or an API at large look like with different endpoints. How can I call this API? And it's also like a contract between the entity that produces the API and the one or more consumers of that API. And I think that's maybe the easiest parallel to make here, right?
Indeed, because it's based on this, basically. I think it arises from, okay, we have this in software engineering. Actually, a lot of trend in data engineering comes from software engineering. So it arises from, okay, we have this, which actually works in software development, Open API. Why don't we have this in data engineering? Because it makes sense to have this tool.
And what kind of things do you describe in a data contract?
Basically, the basic, for me, the basic one that you have, producer, consumer, schema of your data set, at least. This is the basic. So to know, okay.
And schema is like...
your column name and type, description at least. To say, okay, this column does this, you should expect at least these values, let's say.
Okay.
For me, this is the basic, very, very basic, and some versioning, of course. But there is like now a data contract console, which was created a few months back, that has a standard of data contract. So in there you can find, like I said, usage, actually a lot more information. You can pick what you want, of course, based on your use case. But you can say, okay, I want to describe a bit more the usage and if there is GDPR information in this data set.
Okay.
So that you can say, okay, but wait, if you're using this, be careful that GDPR also applies.
Like extra metadata on the different columns, for example. Like this column has PAI data, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. You can basically it boils down to a YAML file. Yeah, like you're sharing here.
So for people like on the live stream, you can see like an example here, which is a YAML file, which is basically for people that don't know what YAML is. It's basically this format that you have a key, an identifier, and then a value, but then you can also have stuff nested there.
Yep.
Yeah. You're saying?
No, like you're showing there, it's like from data contract CLI, so the CLI tool I was going to talk about. This is not exactly the same as the one that the data contract console has come up with.
Oh, it's not.
I don't think so, but it's close to. They also added recently some converter to convert this one to an actual standard. But to me, it will just merge at some point and have only one.
Okay. Interesting.
But you can see that there you have everything. Terms, you can have usage limitation, billing. So there is a lot of information.
Description of terms, which is also interesting. The terms that are being used, like there's a definition of them in that YAML file.
Yeah. So you have quite a lot of stuff there. So basically, you can add everything. And the good thing with this CLI tool that you're showing, so basically my issue, it wasn't really an issue, but like a few months ago, you didn't have any tool that could support data contracts. It was just like, okay, you have a YAML file, we agree on that, but if you don't really have any enforcement on this data contract, it's just like, I feel like it would just be documentation and it ends up on conference, let's say, and nobody looks at it and you're like, okay, we agreed on this, but it's out of date now. Okay. But now with this, you can actually start enforcing this in your pipeline. So every time you generate your data, you can say, okay, is the data quality at least that was agreed upon on the data contract valid in the data that you generated?
And how does it do that? Does it do with like DBT or something?
No, in a very smart way. So they integrate with Soda, Monte Carlo. So every data quality tool that's out there can just connect to it and say, okay, now we have all this information. For the data quality part, so they use Monte Carlo Soda. So you can actually, based on this data contract, say, okay, we'll use Soda to check the quality of it. And then the rest is...
so then like the actual CLI will also use different things under the hood.
Yep.
do you have the contract? Do you
We have a question on the screen.
Oh, how would you use data contracts in conjunction with data catalogs? Good question.
And it's a good question, because like you see here some terms like, for example, the terms definitions that are being used, or the type of metadata that you would typically also expect in a data catalog, right?
Indeed.
So you have this duplication of potentially of.
Yeah, indeed. How would you use? Like you said, you can find some information in your data catalogs that you can find back in this data contract. I think this is a very. If you have this can serve as a base for a data catalog. So basically, have this YAML file and say, okay, we have this agreement, we have this terms like columns. This is what they mean, and this is your base for your metadata.
So maybe, and all of this is quite new, the data contracts. Maybe it can populate some, like if that is your source of truth, maybe it can populate some fields in your data catalog.
Yeah, I think so.
Like you see with Open API. It is confusing. Open API YAMLs where they are being used as a partial input to generate README documentation and stuff like that, for example.
But I do think the tool like Data Contract CLI, this is a bit where they're going, because you see they're already integrating with Soda, Monte Carlo. I think next steps might be integrated with Atlan or CastorDoc.
And to come back to what you were explaining, so you can already, by integrating to these tools, you can check whether or not this contract holds in the actual systems, right? So you run run a check against your actual databases. What I also find interesting as an option, like you don't always want to run against a database, but you also, I see in this spec, there's also some examples of models. So there are minimal data sets, like where you have 10, 20 observations. And that also allows you, if you have this, to run unit tests against that example data, right? Without having to connect to the actual source, which is also interesting.
Very interesting,
Because you have more isolated tests here.
But then basically so to make sure I understand what you're saying is, like, I have examples. So just from the data contract, I can take these examples and I say, for example, this is an order ID, order timestamp, and order total. And maybe we have some same repeated customers here. And I can have a transformation that will aggregate or do this for the day. And because I have the sample, I can easily write a unit test just on the data contract.
And CLS, I'm assuming this is Nicolas, I'm not sure. It says, he responds, but there needs to be one source of truth. What would it be? Contract or catalog? And
I think, one source of truth, but I don't think you can duplicate the information you have in the contract to show it in the data catalog. Doesn't need to be only one of them.
I don't think there is a perfect answer to this either. Right? Like this is still very new, but also if you, for example, look at if you make again the parallel with Open API, you also there have these two approaches where you either go spec first. You first write all the definitions, like for example, to make the parallel, you write everything in the catalog and you assume everybody to implement it. Or you go code first and you auto-generate it based on what you have. And this is a bit in between those two, but I think you need to find a way that works best for the setup that you have. And I think for around these data contracts, we will see more tools popping up, and maybe we will also see the other way around, where you have an extensively used catalog and where you can auto-generate these data contract stubs where you have a schema in already.
But you already see, like, for example, Atlan that's connecting with Soda or any other data quality tool, they can already connect both of them together. So if you extract the information from Atlan and Soda, you have a data contract basically, because you have all the information about the columns, usage, who's producing it, who's the owner. Then on top of that, you also have the quality of it.
And do they actually generate this file?
No. But
or is it just in their system?
It's just
their
in
own
their
probe
system.
there. Okay.
So you could say, now you could start with data like a bit like you said. You can start with the data contract and populate the data catalog. You can also do the inverse.
Okay.
Cool. So there's a data contract specification. I guess also the idea is that this is committed or somewhere, like there's versions of it as well. So like if your data changes and your contract changes, you can also version that, I guess.
Yeah. So they have, it's not yet implemented, but they have like this data contract diff where you could say, what changed between version 1 and version 1.1. So I think this is all versioning is very important data contract to me.
Cool.
because you want to follow up. Okay, the first previous version was about this column. Does it still make sense? We change it to this. I don't feel really good about it. Let's change it back.
It's gonna be hard to keep all of this in sync.
Yeah.
Yeah. They even have I just saw that they have a little web tool. Yeah.
This is really nice. If you click on view, you see all this. It's very basic, but you see it a bit in a UI way, which is way nicer than a YAML.
This is interesting indeed. This quality so the CL.
Yep.
So for people that are just listening, they have a tool, online tool as well, that basically you can put in your YAML file here. So then it just looks like YAML, which is just text. And when you click on view, it actually will parse that through, and then you actually show in different tabs, different sections, all the information about the data contract, who to talk, the version, limitations, examples, everything. Really cool.
And so this is all about structured data in tables, I assume. Look at this example. Marilo was hinting what do Gen AI LLM models need? They need data, but typically this is unstructured data.
Yeah.
Like, can you fit? Like, is there an ability to support unstructured data here as well? And how would you do it?
Define maybe.
That was a big sigh.
Everyone on the bus. Put everyone on the spot.
That also relates a bit to what was the next topic that I wanted to introduce, like data contract for ML models. Does it make sense? But if you look at, first the unstructured data, does that still make sense?
But you said data contract for ML models, or what?
Yeah.
No, because I'm thinking like you have a model, and then you can expose it as an API, so you can have the open API contract.
That's true.
And then you have the data contract, but the data contract is for training these models, or what? What is a data?
No, I would
ML
say
model contract.
But let's maybe go first to the unstructured data, and then let's go back to the data contract for ML.
Like Paolo's not joining us anymore. This is the last time we're gonna see him here.
I'm actually leaving now.
Put him on the hot seat, you know.
No, but it is a fair question, right?
Yeah,
because but we hear this in the community already, like getting new fresh data that is not duplicated. These type of like the quality of your unstructured data for LLM models is super important. How do you monitor? How do you define what a contract, what the data contract is, and how do you define what is
for unstructured data?
Yeah, but I guess a lot of what you define in data contract for structured data can still be applied for unstructured data. Because if you think about producer, consumer, usage, terms.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point.
You can still use that. Maybe the schema will be a bit like.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, you can define where it comes from. You can define the terminology. You can define like the format that you can find it in. How you can access
a lot of the
times
times
UTF-8, for example. Is it
the context as well? If you have questions.
Yeah. Is it
where to find it?
Some metadata on was this digital by native, or was it scanned from a PDF? Like these type of things.
Yeah, and if it's images, then in the end it's just like pixels and tables. So
that's a good point.
If it's audio, you can still say, okay, it should be in French or English, Dutch.
Another question on the screen.
We'll come to it. Otherwise, it's a bit confusing. Because I think that when you explain it like this, unstructured data, I think it makes sense in this concept. I think the more complex thing to me, and maybe that's something for another time, is how do you monitor this quality, the quality of unstructured data? That to me is very hard.
That's very difficult to do.
Let's go into that another time.
But
next week you're back here.
All right.
We'll just put you on that way. We change the setup and put you in the middle of the room, and we just start like.
But honestly, data quality, unstructured data, I think that is going to be super. It's already super important.
I agree. I definitely agree.
But what type of check would you put on unstructured data? Let's say you have a PDF of a scan.
Well, I'm thinking like a simple use case for LLMs is RAG, right? Like you retrieve some data and do something with it and generate a summary of it or whatever. Let us assume that in your knowledge base where you have your data, you have, let's say we have data on On what do you have data?
I was gonna give a boring example of like HR documents. Or like,
That's really boring.
and,
We have a knowledge database on ice creams, right? And but there are two conflicting documents where there is a document on a rocket-shaped ice cream, and there is another document on a rocket-shaped ice cream.
Yeah.
And one of them says that they are all made with strawberries, and the other one says that there's no strawberries. It's
Okay.
all a hoax. It's fully chemical. It's very unhealthy. And like this is it's about the same type of ice cream, but it's completely conflicting. And I'm just thinking this is an example. You can make up a lot of these things.
Yeah.
And what I
like how you had to say, I'm making this up, this example. Like, oh no, you didn't come across that?
but when you talk about data quality, like this is an example where you say, okay, if I want to depend on what this model is going to do for me, what it's going to generate, I also want to make sure that these type of conflicts that I can trust that the data in the knowledge base that I have does not contain, for example, these type of conflicts.
And I think today the answer, well, what I've seen today is to use LLMs again for that.
Yeah, that's because I was talking with Senna. Actually, it was the same example, and he said, yeah, "Okay,
also ice creams."
Wow,
exactly."
I was the one though.
It was like, yeah, just use LLMs. We use LLM to compare them because I don't see how you would do that in a systematic way without LLMs.
I guess is what we're kind of getting to is like the natural language understanding. Today, if you need understanding, LLMs is the standard, right? Like everything goes through everything you need. Like maybe I don't know if you need to classify the papers and you need to know if it's a medical, you can just kind of count the words and those things. But like understanding what it is, understanding contradictions, understanding this, you have to go for LLMs, which I'm not super satisfied, to be honest, because I feel like it's just like a band-aid. Every LLMs everywhere, you know. It's like you use RAG and then but there's issue. Oh yeah, LLMs. Oh, but you need to test it. Oh yeah, I use an LLM for that too, which I'm not a big fan of. But I do feel like that's the best we have today.
Yeah.
Let us go into that.
I'll sleep on it for the week.
Data quality on ice creams another time.
Yes.
We had a question from
one of our
Lucas.
loyal listeners.
The one, the only. Lucas, data contract for batch jobs, so on outputs. I feel this question misses.
In what context?
Yeah,
ML context?
it misses a few words.
I feel like maybe like when we were talking, he typed this question and it made a lot of sense.
Probably.
But there's always a delay and then we push it back. So I think what he's saying, what I'm imagining, like you have DBT and you have like these ELT jobs or ETL jobs, whatever. And then you can do the contract on the output of these batch jobs. Basically,
okay.
I say I want to do this. This should have no nulls, which I guess is something could seem easy with DBT. But like, how can you put that in a contract so everyone can know whenever they're using this data set that this is what you can expect from the data, basically?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what this is about, or is that what it could be about?
It depends, because on output, not necessarily, because your contract.
He says yes, by the way.
He said yes.
Okay, so.
No, that's what. So I was right. He means.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were right, Mela.
This is the highlight.
That's what the takeaway of today.
You heard it here first. I was right. Thank you. See you next week.
No, but yeah, on the output, it's not really about output or input. It's about if you have data and you want to make sure that the data is as expected, then you can build the data contract to make sure that your data is like this. So of course it can be on the output, can also be on the multiple sources that you use to do this, to create this output.
Okay. Yeah, and you want to read this one, Bart? This comment?
There is a comment by someone named Lucas that says Murillo is always right.
Yeah.
Can you tell him to his face?
Shout out to Lucas. I really like
Lucas doesn't know Murillo as well as I know.
Yeah.
And by the way, there was also a comment by NCLS, and I think it refers to the discussion that we were having, for example, on conflicting data. So when there is a problem, raise a flag and let a human solve it. I think that is a very fair remark. I think the human in the loop approach remains valid for a lot of these things.
Yeah, I think like for the conflicting ice cream thing. I guess the thing is like we see there's a conflict, and then we just would escalate to the authority on ice cream, rocket ice creams.
But it's very difficult if you just have a database of hundred of thousand documents. Can you do that with a human intervention?
From the moment that there is a problem, you can say there is a problem. Please escalate.
Yeah,
this.
but
It's like an alert, or I guess it could be like a
But that-
order list.
But you could also it's very much brainstorming now, right? bear with me. But if we talk about data contract, we can have an expectation that there is a certain uniqueness between the documents.
Yeah,
like what is the
indeed.
average uniqueness that you expect, and you can calculate a little bit by
Okay.
moving from text to an embedding
Yeah.
and calculating difference, and then if uniqueness is decreasing, that you then from that moment onwards do again a manual inspection, like what are the ones that are popping out that are making that we drift to less uniqueness. It could also be a manual check.
Yeah, but then this is like similarity check, and then this is not LLMs.
Yeah,
anymore.
and that again could be an expectation, right? In your contract, like the similarity expectation is.
Yeah, indeed, that's true.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I'm also thinking here. I'm not sure if it's worth to discuss here on the pod, but it's an interesting problem.
It's one for a deep dive.
For a deep dive, indeed. But you also mentioned one thing. I still have this on the screen because we talked about data quality for ML models.
Data contracts for ML models.
Data contracts.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what that would look like. And here the the ML model is actually in the picture is being depicted as this is a data consumer.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So this is a consumer of the data, and so as such needs to know how the data looks like.
Yeah, that's true. That I agree. But I guess it's still a data contract. But I mean, I'm not sure if I understand what you were referring to before.
What I was referring is a bit what like you were saying with the open API between a ML model and then the people using this ML model. So what type of things you would get if you use these ML models, then you make sure that the distribution of the output is always the same between the few iterations of the ML model.
To me, like how because I don't think there is like a default contract for
No.
ML models, right? But to me, it could be like a superset of the Open API spec, for example, where you have like a very clear definition of what do you need to send me, what do you get back, but that also like you get in your extra metadata, which today is not part of the Open API spec, but like you have things like I did these experiments, these were the outputs of my experiments, there's PAI data or not, like you could extend the Open API spec, for example.
Yeah, I'm thinking as you're saying this. I guess the models is interesting because there's the software part, like Open API. You put something in, you get something. Like you put two strings in an integer, and you get one integer out or one floating point, whatever. There's also the data part, because if you do this consistently, you should kind of see a pattern, I guess. Like all the churn probability is gonna be it's not gonna be a normal distribution. Maybe it'll be tilted a bit to the right, to the left. But there is something like that. I'm also thinking what you're saying about the experiments. What did you try? That also ties to the model registry. all these things there, model versioning,
hit, commit hash, like these type of things.
Yeah, but then I guess is like the data part will be just another field in the model registry. I guess it's not a model. The model registry is kind of like a catalog with models, and then when you click on it, there is already some information. Ideally, you should have the information of the data that it was trained on.
Yeah,
the experiments that it was tried, all the hyperparameters as well, so you can reproduce these things. If the model goes to production, a lot of times you have who are the approvers that let it go to production, what are tests, what are metrics, all these things. Right?
Is this something you have in model registry, or is
you can edit? I mean, his model registry just kind of has a track record of models. If you want to promote this model from staging to production, you can actually flag this, and you can actually see the difference. So the model registry has there, and then you can add these things, right? You can add these metrics. The data part, that's not something I see a lot. Like, what's the distribution of the outputs?
But to me, a contract, like especially like in highly regulated environments, like to me, a contract would be like the final step of the MLOps process, where you say, I'm going to deploy this model. Next to this model, I'm going to create this artifact. That is basically my model contract that says how did this model came to be? How can you use it? What are the things you need to keep in mind when you're using it? And I think would add value in that aspect where reproducibility, explainability is very important. Indeed.
But my eyes, I think that would plug in a very well with the model registry story. The reproducibility,
Yeah, it overlaps very much in terms
yeah.
of features, but I think, but anyway, we're drifting a bit in a very heavily regulated environment. I think it would be strong if you generate this as a artifact next to the model you're deploying. So
Yeah.
that it's very easy to always look back at what was generated there.
I agree. I'm also like, we started a different time. I'm also checking like how much time do you have?
It's fine.
It's fine. We got all weekend. You don't have any plans, right?
No.
It's fine.
It's all
Actually, not completely true. I'm going to Maastricht
Oh.
this evening.
Should I ask why or
Having dinner.
Wow, fancy.
With who?
Some friends.
Probably gonna get a call from his wife.
Yeah.
Like, dinner? So you're working? Okay, let's see what else. Something that came up a little while ago that we didn't have time to cover. In Rust we trust, White House urges memory safety. So I saw this in a few different posts. Caught my attention because one, it's Rust. Two, White House, I think you don't see very often, right? But basically they're saying that they list a lot of issues, bugs that were introduced by lack of memory safety, and they basically urge people to use more memory safe language. And actually, I think I had it here, I think. Memory safe. So they say an earlier NSA cybersecurity post lists C#, Go, Java, Ruby, Swift as well. But they really focus a lot on Rust. So I guess there are a few things we can learn from this. One is that we have Rust fanboys in the White House. Two, also Python.
There are Rust fanboys everywhere.
Yes, everywhere. Also at the university earlier today, I was asking anyone about Rust, but they weren't as excited. I think they were a bit shy, but they're like, yeah. Anyone knows Rust? It's like, yeah, there's some people that need Rust. Python is not on the list of memory safe languages. Is Python memory safe?
Is Python memory safe? It's a good question. So I think, is it a question to me?
You took it up after us.
So is Python? So Python, I think, if we assume that the implementation is memory safe, I think we can assume that, right? The implementation that is done in the underlying C language. If we assume that is safe, then as a user writing base Python, and there are some. So let's assume you're writing base Python, not importing any models that, not any libraries that talk to C.
Pure Python stuff.
Pure Python stuff. Yeah. Then it's memory safe. You have a garbage collector. You can't, and again, ignoring this because you can a little bit, but typically you don't do any memory management yourself. There's no such thing as self-managed pointers and these type of things. Yeah. So I think base Python, we can more or less assume it's memory safe. From the moment that you start using libraries that were implemented in C and these type of things, becomes a bit more difficult.
So one thing I saw, and I think it's a bit of a tricky question because Python has the C types API, and there you can introduce, you can basically drop an object from memory if you want.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you can do memory management, but
it's like,
then I would no longer say it's memory safe.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Is like, strictly speaking, no. I mean, but even Rust in that sense is also, because Rust, you can also use the unsafe keyword, and then it's that block inside that, it's also not memory safe.
But then do they advise you to use Rust specifically, or it's just like, okay, they added Rust to the...
I think, yeah, no, they specifically mention Rust here. I mean, they mention memory safe languages, but I think it was a while since I've read this, but they mentioned Rust in particular. Let's see. Yeah. And then in Rust we trust? And I would say yes, because there's no trust without Rust. Well, I loved it. And also it rhymes, and everything that rhymes is true. So
that is true,
right? So maybe what was your first impression when you hear the White House is pushing for a language? To me, it sounds a bit.
It wasn't surprising. Did you read like the Python guide that I think NASA wrote? NASA.
No,
It was super good. So they have this type of suggestion, and I feel like it's nice to see that they can give out such suggestions about, okay, we think that Rust might be better than, I don't know, JavaScript if you want to write a program, because it means that they are up to date with technologies that are coming out.
Yeah, well, JavaScript world is now. You're gonna get swatted this evening.
You are.
But
Bart goes to where are you going? Maastricht? Never comes back.
You heard it first.
Yeah.
JavaScript is not in the.
I don't think it was.
Oh, I think it's Java, Ruby, Swift.
Yeah, but let's see.
But they do this to have some uniformity within all their government departments on how is software being built, right? That is why they're doing this. Huh?
I would imagine so. But also, to me, I mean, I know the NSA is like they had a lot of investment, right? Because US also invests a lot on like military and cybersecurity and all these things. But usually when I think of government and like White House, I think more of the government, not the NSA in particular. I don't think of the most edge, like state of the art, like usually when you go to like government facility, things are a bit older. I mean, at least that's the stereotype I have, right? So, and also you like on the paper, like if you go to the PDF, it's like you have the White House symbol in every page of the thing, the American flag. So I thought it was a bit funny, not funny, but unusual, right? Like I didn't expect to see that. That's something you come across all the time. But yeah. I'm not sure.
What is a fun experiment? We talk about memory safety. Like you use a language like C, and you just you can basically create a pointer to an address, right?
Yeah.
To memory address. You can also set the value of that address.
Yes.
And to just create a loop and set random values to random addresses, and then to see how your computer reacts.
You did this? Are you gonna do this?
I did this. I did this, but I think I was 10 years old or something, and I was using BASIC, and you had the peek and poke command.
Okay.
And with peek, you could look at a memory address, and with poke, you could set a value.
Okay.
And this was just random things, and you also most of the times it just crashed. But sometimes you got like weird characters on the screen.
Oh, really?
Or, and now I'm gonna show my age, or your CD-ROM player opened on its own. These type of things.
Can you explain what a CD-ROM player is?
Yeah, you had these round discs.
Alex is like taking notes. Round discs, you say.
But this is really fun.
Yeah. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, that's fun, yeah. And then you realize, this is why Rust is a good idea.
True. 10-year-old Bart is like, man, we need another language. Bart is the OG Rust fanboy.
Are you a Rust fanboy right now?
I wouldn't call myself a fanboy, but I appreciate the
Rust
principles. Yeah.
He's a polite fanboy. It's like he doesn't.
What tires me is that you can't have any discussion on what do we implement this in, and without anyone popping up and saying, "Oh, maybe we need to do this in Rust."
Yeah.
Like you can't have any discussion without involving Rust.
Yeah, I like Rust. I'm trying to learn more and stuff, but it also feels a bit. It's like. The answer is Rust. But what's the question? It's like, I don't care. It's Rust. It's this. Like, yeah. I also feel
That's why Merilo went to PyCon last year and did a presentation on Rust.
That is true. I did 2 sessions, 2 different sessions. One was
he saw the wave and he surfed it.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I'm here. I'm a podcast host. Life's good. So I highly recommend it.
Devin is doing your day job.
Exactly. And you know what else is built in Rust?
What is?
Rye.
Oh, interesting. That's an interesting one.
So what is rye? Anyone heard of rye?
Yes, but
a grain?
I feel like you're Paolo said he wants to say yes, but he doesn't want to explain.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, okay, can you explain?
Maybe it is a grain actually, because the logo looks like a grain. But basically, rye is a Python package management, virtual environment management, all these things written in Rust. So it's inspired by the Rust cargo, which is one other thing that people praise quite a lot. if you're familiar with tools like poetry, PDM, etc., Rye is an alternative to that, but it does more things as well. For example, it says here, Bootstrap's Python. It provides an automated way to get access to the amazing blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what I wanted. You can manage, well, I'm not sure where it is, but you can also manage Python versions. So usually there's a tool called PyEnv. Rye would also replace that.
Okay.
It also uses the latest and greatest. So for example, linting and formatting, it actually bundles Rough, which is another tool that got a lot of hype with both linting and formatting. The latest thing that got a lot of hype was UV, which is like a fast package resolution and whatnot, written in Rust again. And Rye, I think, was probably the first of these tools that actually implement UV, they actually incorporate UV.
Okay.
Right. So you still need to specify some configuration, and then you can use Rye basically.
And
you can use UV.
So it is a package Python.
Yeah.
Dependency manager, virtual environment.
Yeah. So it's a bit of, so maybe to break a couple of things down, right? Like there's virtual environments, which basically say in Python, you interpret the code, right? But basically you can say, I want this dependency for this project, but you don't want to install it on your computer as a whole. You just want for that project. And then you move on to another one, and you want a different version of that dependency. So you have different virtual environments. That's one thing. Then you have packaging. So like if you want...
So the virtual environment is like for that project that you're working on, you have your Python instance and it's scoped to that project that you're working on.
So if you have two projects working in parallel, you don't want to mix the dependencies. You can have two virtual environments for that.
Okay.
Right.
And that's what Rye does for you.
That's one of the things Rye does. Right. There's also packaging. So for example, if I have an application, I'll get to the answer to the question. If you have an application and you have and I want to share this, right? So like all the imports that you have in Python, you want to share this. So you need to package these things. You should package, upload it by API. If it's something with Rust, you need to precompile C++ as well. So it can become a bit involved. So there are tools for that. Poetry also does this. Rye also does this, right? Same thing with Python versions. So it actually does quite a lot of stuff, but it's all in one. And it kind of uses the coolest and the latest kind of tech there, which I also think is nice.
Is Rough, Rye, and UV the same company? Built by the same company?
This is also what, I mean, this is not super news, but this is also what...
UV actually started somewhere else, right? No, it was Rye that started somewhere else.
Rye started somewhere else, exactly. And this is also so... Hi, Astra, how UV? So when UV was released last month, which we also discussed...
So just for people, the UV and Rough are part of Astral?
Yes, I'll get to that as well. So... Well, maybe it's a good way to start. UV and Rough, so the creator created Rough, and then he decided to start a company called Astral. So Astral is the company that runs Rough, and it says here next gen Python tooling. So that's what the company is about. Oh, Jesus, sorry. Thank you for that. So it says here in the company Astral next gen Python tooling. So that's what the company is about. And they had started with Rough, but then they also created UV, which is another implementation in Rust of a very popular Python package called pip tools. Rye was from another person. So that was from this guy. I forgot his name. Armin Ronicher. He's very big. He's like creator of Flask as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So even when this project got started, we already had a lot of traction, but it was very experimental, right? And then he said that he sat down with the creator of Astral to say, so Charlie Marsh, and they kind of realized that they have a very similar vision for Python packaging. So make a long story short, he said together with Astral's release of UV, they will take stewardship of Rye, meaning that it's under the, so you can also see here, as part of the release, we also take stewardship of Rye, which basically means that Rye lives under the Astral SH repo. So it's not owned, let's say, by this, but he will still be involved.
Okay.
So there's a close collaboration there.
Cool.
The reason I also mentioned this is because I tried this for the first time.
Right.
Actually, yeah, Rye. So I actually was building a demo for the lecture, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll try Rye. And actually, it was really nice.
The difficult thing for me with all this is that there are so many alternatives. Like you have now Rye, you have Poetry, you have PDM. you have PyEnv, you have a lot of things, and they're all in terms of scope. They either include virtual environments or not. They include dependency management or not. Like how do you make your choice? Like what is, like if you need to, you're gonna start from scratch tomorrow, what is the tool that you choose?
Yeah,
Marilo?
and I think now tomorrow.
If you advise us for the coming year 2024, what is your advice?
It's actually, it's too early because I used it once, but Rye I think is what I'm gonna. I'm switched to Rye.
Okay.
Until I find a reason to switch back.
Okay. Do you have a preference?
I use Poetry.
Yeah, Poetry was a bit. There was some controversy around Poetry development.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was the controversy?
They wanted people to bump to the new version of Poetry, so they basically they committed. Actually, this was published, a version of Poetry that 20% of the cases, if it's in CI, they would just break your pipeline for you, and
on purpose.
On purpose.
What?
Like randomly, 20%, and then they went back. They published. They reverted that decision.
That's crazy. How would you come to such a decision?
Exactly, but that's the thing. Is like, it's weird.
Yeah.
The other thing too is Poetry. Like you see, usually. So maybe I'll hold on. I'm gonna share another screen. I'm gonna share my full screen.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, and this is if my laptop doesn't die. Actually,
there's a Doge behind you, huh? Hello?
There's a what?
A Doge and a rocket.
Oh yeah, there is. This guy. Let me see. I'll share my screen. Oh, did I do this? No,
Isn't he dead now?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Wow, way to bring us down, huh? Okay.
The dog died.
Yeah.
The
Doge died.
Doge died. Well, not Doge, but
it had a name.
It had a name, eh? Yeah. What is it again for the type of breed? Shiba Inu.
Yeah. It's fine. So what I was going to show very quickly. So here, this is the simple project using Rye. This is the PyProject.toml, which is the configuration, right? One other thing, the Poetry that I'm not a big fan. So this is a TOML format for people that are watching. It's basically just kind of like YAML. It says this is what you put here, this is what you put there. And this is what Python uses today, the modern way, to basically package something. So if you have something with C, you would specify here something that compiles C. With Rust, the same thing. And then you actually know, based on this information, what do they need to do, what they need to take, what they need to zip, what they need to send to PyPI, right? This is the default.
But maybe you need to explain a little bit what we're seeing, because we have listeners that are not seeing this.
True. I just opened my Visual Studio Code, so my editor, with the example that I used Rye, just to kind of talk a bit about it. So right now I'm looking at the pyproject.toml file, which is the main configuration file. So you have stuff like project, you have stuff like build system, and then usually the convention is have tool dot, the name of the tool.
Tool.rye in this case.
Tool.rye. But for example,
you have config for that tool.
Yes, but for example, Rye, the build system, they use Hatchling, which is another tool, which is a new, which
it's turtles all the way down.
Yeah, but I guess one point here I'm trying to make is that Rye kind of takes the latest and the coolest, let's say, or like the most up-to-date stuff, right? Okay. So Hatchling is the way you're going to configure this and the way you're going to configure your metadata and how does it go to PyPI when you publish a package. You also have the scripts with stuff that PDM has, the Poetry. The issue with Poetry is that they don't follow the standard as well here with this. So the keys, for example, in the project section, you have authors, you have dependencies, you have description, you have name. This is what Python as an organization defined. Poetry doesn't follow that necessarily. Poetry has a whole different way.
Really?
Yeah. So that's why, like, if you have this, now you guys are questioning me, and I'm very
no, I believe you.
So I'm like, is it true? Am I lying? I'm not sure.
But it looks the same.
I think if you look at it, like you wouldn't, like you couldn't just copy paste this and.
If you squint at it, it's the same probably.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, the information is the same. Like the authors is the same, but maybe the authors won't be a list of dictionaries, kind of. Right? Maybe it'll be something else. And because of that, and basically the build backend is the contract, right?
Contract, you said.
Contract. Yeah. So Poetry does things in a different way, and also the developers, it's a bit of a questionable, I guess, the way that they conduct the development of Poetry, and that's the main. I don't mind Poetry. Sometimes it takes a long time to resolve the dependencies with Poetry when you're locking the stuff. This is a use case that Rye would thrive because
Really?
Rye uses UV in the back, and UV has Rust, so very fast. Actually, that's what they.
And you said they built a company out of it, but what's the business model there?
That's a good question. I have no idea. I don't know how they make money. But again,
I think for every rye environment, you'll have to start paying a year from now. Rye in it.
I'll get.
Do
I'll
you
get it for
agree
free
with this?
now. Yeah. Your credit card is expiring.
Yeah.
This is a little graph from UV. So UV again is the stuff that Rye uses, right? That can use. You need to specify configuration for it. So this is for creating virtual environment. Left with the without. No, the right is without. Left is with seed packages and pip and setup tools. So basically, to create environments, it's much faster with UV.
Yeah, but no one cares. Like this is to me, it's like a chart to make a point, but the point is not really relevant.
I think the thing that I would, the thing that I have,
if you install your dependencies and it's 50 milliseconds versus 100, like no one.
But it's good for publicity.
It's good for publicity, and it's good for very edge cases. So like platforms that are doing nothing else than building these things.
But one thing that I do see value is if you have a lot of dependencies in a project, and to match the dependencies, like go through the tree and says, okay, this package requires greater than equal than this. This one requires less than equal than this.
Yeah.
It has taken me a long time.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Right.
Like
so to resolve that,
resolving correctly.
Yeah, that I had issues.
Yeah.
Once it's resolved once, right? You have the log file, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe one other thing I can show for the log file that I mentioned. They basically have a requirements.txt, so they don't have the poetry lock and stuff. So this is again inspired by the pip tools.
So yeah, you could use pip install and just
you can.
That's nice.
The only thing here that I guess is a downside is that you don't have the hashes. But again, you see you have some comments to see why you have this dependency. But aside from that, it's it. This is development, and these are the actual dependencies. So again, my today I would start with Rye for any project.
And there you have it. So if you follow Marilo's advice,
and you also heard today,
you start using Rye.
And you also heard
if
today,
you have any problems going forward, you know whose door to knock on.
No, but you already saw from Lucas that I'm always right.
We'll see. Oh well. Let's wrap this up. We do not have a hot take today.
Actually, don't we? I asked ChatGPT.
Okay. I wanted to run a little bit differently, but okay, let's go.
I put here, so I just pick one. I asked it to come up with a few.
A hot take about what? What was the prompt? Are we allowed to know?
Oh, it wasn't a very prompt. I can actually show here real quick. The thing is, Bart made a mistake.
I did?
Not a mistake. He made the mistake of sharing with me, ChatGPT paid account. So now I have access to the.
Oh, shit. I need to deactivate this.
And apparently there's a hot take AI. So I thought, okay, maybe let's give it a try. Okay. So I went on the hot take AI and I put all the notes from this show.
Are you sharing the screen, or we need to?
I need to toggle my screen.
Okay.
Yeah. So go back here.
These are your rough notes.
Rough. So this is the bot. And basically I put the notes from the show.
But choose one, because that's too much.
Yes.
Just choose one and read one.
So I took a quick look. Maybe introducing Devin. So this is about Devin, the topic.
Yeah.
It's a bad take. Calling AI a software engineer is like calling a calculator a mathematician. It's a tool, not a title holder. The real question is how effectively we can compute projects and truly understand the nuances.
Yes.
Agree or disagree?
I think it's not really a hot take, right?
Yeah, maybe not, but it was the best I could do in a short time.
Well,
Bart's like, I'll do better, Bart.
It's a tool, not a title holder. Okay.
Well, I guess the main
it's a tool. Yeah.
calling AI a software engineer is like calling calculator a mathematician.
Let's put it like let's call it calculator. I agree with that. AI is a tool, right? Calculator is a tool.
But do you think mathematicians equates to calculators?
No, mathematician equates to software engineer.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I don't agree.
With Devin, you can take action. Huh? With a calculator, you can do your calculation, but it doesn't follow up on doing things for you. So if you write, okay,
Huh.
solve this equation for me, it doesn't draw for you the plot of the equation, let's say, right? Whereas Devin,
It's
you can
difficult to,
say,
like, where does it
Yeah.
start and end? That's a good question. I think probably today you can still see it as do.
Yeah.
We need to have this discussion
in 6 months.
in 6 months. Yeah. Can we maybe also, to end on that note, last time we had a very peculiar hot take by Murillo. A bit
I
out
have
of the
another
blue.
hot take here, actually. Let's go over this one.
No, but wait, I want to hear.
I think it's a good one to end on this. I think if we come back to this hot take by Murillo and we give the question to Paolo, and then I think it's good that everybody knows this.
We're gonna keep repeating
To
this
keep
every
this in
episode.
like make a bit of public knowledge about these things. So let's give the hot take to Paolo.
Does Murillo have guns?
Don't you? You're gonna do the hot take, no?
Oh, I thought you were gonna pose it. Okay.
I did my whole.
This was just a history of hot takes that are always data related, right?
Yeah.
And then last time we had two external guests, and Murillo had his hot take prepared, and he teased me like, "Oh yeah, very good hot take, very good hot take. Gotta be very interesting." And then the hot take came, and it was, soap bars are better than liquid soap.
Like much better. Like much better.
Yeah, I agree.
What is your stance? You agree?
I only have a soap bar.
You're also a
Can you
soap
put
bar
the
kind of
applause?
guy.
Can we play a pause sound, please? There we go.
Wow.
I like it, man. I knew he was smart.
Yeah,
but
but
like,
That's why we're sitting together.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
a bit,
he smells my cleanliness.
Okay, that's fun. Let's just went over the. Oh wow!
oh yeah.
I did not expect this.
So
Th-
actually, like
There are more people like you out there, Murillo.
there's a whole country of Brazil.
I'm Brazilian.
So Bart actually wants to have he wants to make a little gift for the guests as a.
I think that would be cool, right? Like a small soap, Murillo's head on it.
You just made it weird.
Exactly.
Rubbing your my
What's that?
face on
Yeah.
your eye. It's like,
Started as a great idea. Now it's
I mean, I'll still take it, huh?
A
Just,
small soap in the shape of a cloud. Datatopics.
what do you think?
stop the stream. Stop the stream.
Cut it.
We cut on this and outro music, and we're here.
All right. Thanks,
Yeah, but
Paolo.
Thanks everybody for listening. Paolo, thanks for joining.
Oh, he wants to say something. Hold
Oh,
on.
sorry.
Wasn't there a question that you had to answer?
No, I just had another hot take that maybe was better, but I could just come better prepared.
Okay.
But
For next time.
yeah, Bart, I can't disappoint Bart too much.
Thanks a lot for joining us, Paolo.
My pleasure.
Thanks a lot, man. People can find you on LinkedIn.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Yep.
See you all
Thank you.
next time.
Bye.
Enjoy the weekend.
You have text
By the way,
in a way that's meaningful to software people.
my favorite quote of this
Hello.
is when he talks about
I'm Bill
generating
Gates.
code, and it's slightly wrong always.
I would recommend
Like this is my favorite. My
yeah,
favorite quotes
it
coming
writes
When I
a
write
lot of
some
code
code from
for me,
scratch, it's
and
always
usually it's
slightly wrong.
I'm reminded incidentally of Rust.
Rust.
up. Yes.
But who did
On
that?
this one,
What did
iPhone
this?
is made by a different
Nice.
company, and
How did
so,
you do that?
you know,
You will not learn
Magic.
Rust while skydiving.
Well, I'm
fingers.
sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you for the opportunity to
Are we
speak to
still
you
live?
today about large neural networks. It's
Can people
really
hear
an
us?
honor.
Okay.
Data topics. Welcome to the Data Topics podcast.